Hey now, I love my Pit Boss 700 FB. I use it all the time. In fact, that's part of the reason why it's needing a little bit of aesthetic care, which I'm going to be doing in the near future here. However, on the weekend, I was using this and I noticed that the temperature just crashed all of a sudden, went down to 55 Fahrenheit, even though it was set at 200. And it appeared that I probably had some sort of an auger jam there, but I had an issue where I couldn't remove the bottom plate because the screws were fused in. I wound up contacting Dances, who handles Pit Boss, and they reassured me, told me not to panic, just let me know to do my best to remove those bolts using a screw extractor set, and if there was any damage to the plate underneath, they would be happy to replace that for me. Today I'm going to be getting the auger out, taking a peek here, seeing exactly what's going on, and just getting this bad boy up and running so I can keep smoking. So come along for the ride. Now, in order to access the auger on a 700 FB, you have to remove this bottom panel that is on the whole hopper box here. Now, the first problem that I encountered with this is that while half of the bolts came out no problem, the other half are completely stuck in here, and I'm just stripping the ridiculous Phillips head screws that are in there. So I'm going to need to use a screw extractor kit. So in order to do that, I'm starting off here with a 5/32 metal drill bit. I'm just going to drill this out. And then just with this is actually the number 4 bit out of my extractor kit here. I just tried the number 3, but the number 3 didn't quite work, but looks like, whoo, there we go. Number 4 will do the trick. So I'm just gonna make sure that I've got all of these bolts out of here. Now, with those problematic bolts removed, I can just take out the ones that were coming out nicely, as they should. And panel removed. Now, on the day of the incident, I did remove everything here from the interior of the smoker, tried to get pellets out from that end, also coming around to the hopper, doing the same thing here, including using a shop vac. Because I couldn't access the actual auger because of the inability to remove this hopper unit here, I tried to blow a little compressed air through there. It seemed like air was coming out, but that doesn't mean that there's not an auger jam. Next, I'm going to pop off the bolts here that are holding the control panel on. Make sure not to lose the little washers on there. Then, according to what I've seen with Pit Boss, the person just wants to tuck this inside here, just like that. And all that remains is just to remove the 4 bolts. There are 2 on the back here that you can't see because the camera is over there. So you're directly opposite the ones on the front, which are right here. While I'm doing this, I'm just going to put a hand on this hopper unit in case this becomes completely loose. I'm going to take care not to lose the washers on these bolts. So actually, once you remove those, this isn't loose per se. It's not just going to fall off. However, it is going to be able to come off. So I've just got this bucket positioned here so that I can rest the hopper unit on there and not risk messing up anything to do with the wires. Now, to remove the motor, you need to remove this little bolt that's going through here, and this is just an Allen or hex key going at the 7/64. Appears to fit nicely. Kind of a tight fit here. However, see these and those pliers. That is the angle. I'm just holding that bolt still with the Allen key and then turning the nut with the pliers. Seems to be the way. And you can see it's just a little lock nut. Once that nut is out of there, you should just be able to just get a grip on that, just pull out that bolt. And there we are. And I just moved the hopper assembly over here to the front end of the Pit Boss, giving me a little bit easier access to this. Oh, yeah, so just using a pair of vice grips, looks like I should be able to, by turning counterclockwise. Remove this auger. Just going to pull that little bushing off. So looking in there, it does seem like there are some pellets stuck in there. I'm not sure if that's really a jam or not, so let's go digging. Imagine there are different things you could use in order to dig around in here. A piece of rebar or some other kind of metal. I'm just going to use, this is actually part of a pin that you would use in concrete forms that I had lying around. Okay, now looking in there, it does seem like there are some broken up pellets. Hit the end of my box there. So there very likely was a jam in there, although honestly it seemed like this was pretty easy to bust it up. I'm just going to dig around in here a little bit more and see if there's anything I can get out. I think in the spirit of attempting to be clever, I'm going to run some steel wool through here as well. Just going to do this and then try to jam it in there with my... There we go, yeah. Straight on through. I'm going to do that a few times here, just in case there's any debris from those pellets still stuck in there. A few different orientations. I think I'd be pretty leery about running that steel wool through there if I didn't have that solid bar to run through. However, I think that worked quite well. All right, shop vac time. Let's get that cleaned out. Well, I've got this auger out here, just using some sandpaper, a little sanding sponge. I'm going to just give this a nice cleaning, just in case there are any tiny little spots of rust or anything like that. That should clean that off nicely. The next move in my journey here was to actually remove the fire pot, which I did by unscrewing it, turning it, and then kind of angling it, just like so, which enabled me to get it out. Of course, the igniter was still in there, which just attaches to this here via this little screw. So I'm going to go ahead, now that I've cleaned this out, kind of scrubbed everything out here just a little bit, I'm going to reinsert that igniter. I might actually just clean that up a little bit here too with some steel wool, and then I'm going to reinsert it, tighten that bolt, and just tuck it back in and twist. I'm not sure if I can do this one-handed here, but that is, now we're going to go back. Oh, geez, that went in incredibly easily. So I'm just going to pop those 4 screws back in, and that is done. Now that I have my auger all nicely cleaned up here, I'm just going to reinsert it. I'll get my bushing on there. Yeah, you see how easily this goes in and out here now that there's nothing jamming up on the inside. So now it is time just to reattach this motor. So I just lined up the holes here. And auger. Got through there. So just do the opposite of before. Getting this finger tight. There we go. And once again, just using that Allen key. And one of those pliers here to tighten. And then, of course, resecuring the motor via that bushing. Just have to line up that hole there. We'll hold that in place. Perfect. So now, with our motor secured and auger in place, everything like that, we can just reassemble the actual copper box here. So we're just going to put that in place, which again, it's nice that you can kind of set it here in place and it's not going to fall away on you. It gives you time to single-handedly get those bolts reinstalled, again ensuring that you've got the washers for them. I'm going to do the top ones on each side first. And we'll do the bottom ones. And then I'm just going to reinstall the control panel. So now that that's all reassembled, the only thing that I haven't put back on is that bottom plate, because I'm going to require some new bolts for that anyway, but I do want to test this out and see if it is working the way that it should. So I've got it plugged in. I'm just going to turn it on here. And we have auger rotation once again. So I'm going to quickly add some pellets and see how this fires up. There we are. I got a few pellets in there. Almost there. Almost there. Well, to me, that looks like smoke. Ha-ha! There we go. Success! So at this point, I'm just letting this thing power down here. I want to clean this thing out really quite nicely prior to reassembling everything. For reattaching that bottom panel on the hopper end, I've got these 832 machine screws. They're 1/2 inch long and they look like they might be just a fraction longer than the original screws, but I also have some of these flat washers, so we'll see if they fit. And here we are with those machine screws all nicely installed. So this panel is completely secured once again. So we're all tidied up in here and we are back in action with a picnic roast. You wanna see my meat? Ooh, look at that right there. You know what? Now we gotta spritz it. So I've used my pit boss a couple of times since dealing with that Auger Jam, and it has worked 100% perfectly. So that's exactly what I needed to do in order to get this up and running again. So aside from my initial trepidation in dealing with those seized machine screws and getting those out of there with that screw extractor kit, it actually went really quite smoothly. As long as the person just follows those steps, you're able to easily deal with an Auger Jam. If your screws happen to get messed up and you're having difficulty getting them, that is exactly how to get them out. And I have to say the experience in dealing with Pit Boss and Danson's, just the advice they had, the fact that they had my back, if there was any sort of an issue with that bottom panel or anything like that, they were more than willing to help me out. So that's definitely a relief, and it just gives us a sense of peace of mind when it comes to dealing with this in the future. Big shout out to those guys. Hopefully you don't have to deal with an Auger Jam situation with your pellet smoker, but if that does happen with your Pit Boss, this is the way to deal with it. And until next time, keep her at 11.